Karen Horney was born in Germany in 1885 and became one of the first female voices to reshape modern psychology. At a time when women were largely excluded from higher education and professional science, Horney earned a medical degree and later specialized in psychiatry. She studied and practiced psychoanalysis during its formative years, quickly becoming a prominent figure. But her ambition didn't stop at credentials. She had a deep personal commitment to understanding the human condition. Horney eventually moved to the United States, where she would found the American Institute for Psychoanalysis and teach a generation of therapists. Her work focused not on abstract theory, but on human experience, identity, neurosis, gender, and the inner conflict between who we are and who we think we should be. Her influence endures because she spoke not only with intellect, but with empathy. When Karen Horney entered the field of psychoanalysis, it was shaped entirely by men. Sigmund Freud's ideas ruled the domain, and he framed women not as full subjects, but as incomplete men. Female psychology, as written by Freud and his peers, was riddled with assumptions. Women were defined by lack, governed by passivity, and driven by envy. These ideas didn't just shape theory, they influenced treatment, diagnosis, and cultural expectations. Horney wasn't just a rare woman in the field, she was a woman who dared to disagree. She challenged the foundations of Freud's ideas, arguing that they were not timeless truths, but reflections of male experience and male culture. She saw Freud's theories not as objective science, but as projections of a specific worldview. By reframing female psychology through lived experience rather than male comparison, she made space for a more honest understanding of identity, power, and development. One of Freud's most infamous claims was that women suffer from penis envy, feeling inherently incomplete without male anatomy. Karen Horney dismantled this theory with calm precision. She argued that what women actually envy is power and agency, not anatomy. In a world where men hold political, social, and financial dominance, of course women might internalize feelings of inadequacy. But this is not biology, it's culture. Horney flipped Freud's logic on its head, suggesting that if envy exists, it might be the other way around. Men could unconsciously envy women's ability to create life. She called this womb envy. But her deeper point was this: psychological theories must be rooted in lived reality, not prejudice. When we pathologize people for their response to inequality, we blame the victim instead of questioning the system. Horney's critique wasn't just feminist, it was revolutionary. Horney believed that most neurosis comes from the gap between who we are and who we feel we should be. She called this image the idealized self, a mask we wear to feel worthy, safe, and accepted. Over time, we begin to identify more with this mask than with our real self. We strive to be perfect, self-sufficient, and invulnerable. But these are illusions. This pressure disconnects us from joy, spontaneity, and honesty. The result? Chronic anxiety, self-hate, and emotional exhaustion. Horney called this the tyranny of the shoulds. Instead of living our truth, we live a performance. And we forget it is a performance. She urged people to notice the voice that says, "I should be more successful, more lovable, less emotional." That voice is not your truth, it's a defense. Healing begins when we stop trying to be ideal and start daring to be real. To cope with deep insecurity, Horney proposed that people develop one of three dominant strategies, or what she called neurotic trends. First, moving towards people. This involves trying to earn love through compliance, affection, or approval. Second, moving against people. This strategy uses aggression, control, and competition to avoid being vulnerable. And third, moving away from people. Here, people withdraw emotionally, seeking independence to avoid rejection. These strategies aren't chosen consciously. They form in early childhood, often as adaptive responses to unpredictable environments or emotional neglect. The tragedy is that they become rigid, even when they no longer serve us. Instead of relating flexibly, we become stuck in one mode of self-protection. Horney's work describes how these patterns are not personality traits, but defense mechanisms rooted in fear. Once we understand them, we can begin to soften them and reconnect with our real self. Freud viewed neurosis as a clash between biological drives and societal repression. Horney redefined it entirely. To her, neurosis was the inner war between our real self and the false ideal we've created to survive. This battle is subtle, constant, and exhausting. It shows up as perfectionism, imposter syndrome, people-pleasing, or emotional numbness. Horney didn't pathologize these traits, she saw them as messages, signals, proof that we are trying to live up to a version of ourselves that feels safer than our truth. In therapy, she focused on helping people peel back those layers. The goal wasn't to analyze endlessly, but to reconnect with spontaneity, play, and vulnerability. She believed neurosis could be transformed, not by willpower, but by awareness and compassion. It's not about becoming better, it's about becoming real again. Before Karen Horney, theories about women were almost always written by men. These theories defined femininity as weakness, emotionality as pathology, and ambition as deviance. Horney exposed how cultural expectations shaped female psychology far more than biology did. She argued that much of what was labeled female neurosis was in fact the trauma of trying to exist in a world that punished you for being yourself. She didn't see women as failed men. She saw them as complex, resilient, and uniquely burdened. She advocated for a psychology that starts not with anatomy, but with experience. Her vision made room for female voices, female pain, and female freedom, without comparison or apology. In doing so, she laid the foundation for feminist psychology as we know it. Horney's bold ideas weren't always welcomed. In 1941, she was expelled from the New York Psychoanalytic Institute for questioning Freudian orthodoxy. But exile became liberation. She went on to found her own institute, the American Institute for Psychoanalysis, publish groundbreaking books, and mentor a new generation of therapists. Unlike many of her peers, she wasn't interested in intellectual dominance. She wanted therapy to be human, relational, transformative. Today, we see her influence in everything from humanistic psychology to trauma-informed therapy. She introduced compassion into theory. She made psychoanalysis less about diagnosis and more about discovery. So how can you bring Karen Horney's insights into your life? Notice your shoulds. When you hear yourself thinking, I should be better, stronger, more successful, pause. Ask where that voice comes from. Reflect on your pattern. Do you move toward, against, or away from people when anxious? Drop the mask. Try showing up as your real self, even if it's messy. Be kind to the part of you that learned to protect itself. Those patterns once served a purpose. Healing, in Horney's view, wasn't about becoming perfect. It was about returning to yourself, with honesty and grace. She taught us that the truth doesn't live in ideals, it lives in presence. Which of Horney's ideas challenged the way you see yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to go deeper, like and subscribe for more deep dives into psychology, philosophy, and the inner world. Because here at the Thoughtful Revolution, we don't just consume ideas, we live them.